Welcome to the program. Today, I would like to ask you a question. What is personality? We humans tend to describe the personalities of people around us. In fact, all psychologists and psychiatrists do the same, observing how and why people behave as they do. We all do it, like it or not. But there is an observable difference when we begin assessing the personality of others. We tend to focus on individuals, while a personality psychologist uses conceptions of personality which can be generally applied to everyone. You might appreciate that such a research has also led the way for a number of theories to develop, which help explain how and why some types of personality traits develop in humans. Firstly, one needs to understand what the word personality really means. But we will deal with it in a short while. Firstly, personality is made up of the characteristics of thought, feelings, behaviors, which make an individual unique. Secondly, personality arises from within the individual and remains unchanged throughout one's entire life. There is usually a recognizable regularity to behavior patterns in human beings. People behave in the same way or similar ways in a variety of circumstances, and this trend we will call perhaps consistency. Consider being at the beach and a warning being issued about the sharks therein. How would you react? How would others react to it? There is a consistency in dealing with the circumstances. Now, personality is constructed, that's psychologically, and therefore it is a psychological issue. But according to studies, we know that it is influenced by biological needs and the biological processes as well. Personality does not just impact on how we respond to the environment or the situations we are in. However, it influences us to behave in certain ways. There are indeed many types of expressions, and personality is displayed in more than just one behavior pattern. We can observe it in our thoughts, in our feelings, in our relationships, and they may be observed also in other social interactions. Question: how does personality develop? There are a number of theories. As you may appreciate, some of them suggest that there are only a limited number of personality types and are related to the biological system. Personality can be the result of internal characteristics which are genetically observed in individuals. Sigmund Freud's work has greatly influenced this thought, which is, of course, psychodynamic theories on personality. This is where the influence of the unconscious is emphasized. Psychodynamic theories include Freud's psychosexual stage theory, as well as the theory on stages of psychosocial development by Erik Erikson. There are a number of other theories worth considering, for instance, behavioral ones. This one suggests that personality is the result of interaction between the individual and the environment. Behavioral theories and even the behavioral theorists study the observable behaviors and unfortunately do not consider the internal thoughts and feelings in absolute terms. You may have heard of John B. Watson. He is one such theorist. We can talk about that individual later. Now, Carl Rogers, you may have heard of, and Abraham Maslow were humanist theorists. They emphasized the importance of the free will and individual experience in the development of personality. Personality is the combination of emotional and behavioral response patterns of the individual. Question: when did the study of personality start? As far as we know, it started with Hippocrates and his 4 humors, which gave rise to 4 temperaments. In the 2nd century, his successor, Galen, refined this explanation. Now, the 4 humors theory considered that an individual's personality was based on the balance of bodily humors. For instance, yellow bile, black bile, phlegm, and blood. Choleric people were thought to have yellow bile, and they were irascible. High level of black bile meant that they were very melancholic and or pessimistic. Phlegmatic people were characterized as having an excess of phlegm. They were sluggish, but calm-tempered. People having high levels of blood were sanguine, or they were cheerful, having passionate dispositions. However, the modern sense of personality is due to the shifts in culture, beginning and originating during the Renaissance period. However, during medieval times, the sense of self was related to a number of social roles, such as the household, kinship, guild, corporation, and they were considered as being the building blocks. However, personality can be divided into the big 5. openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, meaning emotionalism or emotionality. They seem to attribute to a person's genetics rather than the effects of one's environment. However, the relationship between happiness and extroversion observed in adults can also be observed in children. Perhaps then we could consider that the implications of such findings can help us identify children who are likely to experience episodes of depression and develop types of treatment those children could respond to or benefit from. According to research, genetics exert a greater influence on happiness levels. Personality is not believed to become stable until the age of 30. However, personality construction in children is usually referred to as temperament, and this is considered as the precursor to the development of personality. This measures levels of emotionality, activity, sociability, and shyness in children. It is also known as the EAS model, and we will consider this a little later in a moment. This trend in children is understood to be equal to the Big Five model in adults, as we mentioned just before. Also, according to research, a high degree of sociability and low degrees of shyness are equal to adult extroversion and are considered to be high levels of life satisfaction in young children. There is a strong link between acting extroverted and the positive effect. Extroverted behaviors, including acting, talkative, assertive, adventurous, as well as outgoing, and the positive effect can be defined as experiences of being happy, having enjoyable emotions. The research and study observes the benefits and drawbacks of introverts, shy, inhibited, non-aggressive people, acting extroverted, and extroverts acting introverted. That's an interesting observation. After a period of time, introverts acting extroverted do experience an increase in the positive effect, while extroverts acting introverted appear to experience lower levels of the positive effect and suffered from the phenomenon known as the ego depletion. Ego depletion can be described as cognitive fatigue and is the use of one's energies to overtly act in a way which is contrary to one's inner disposition. When someone acts contrary to their inner disposition, he or she diverts an incredible lot, if not all, cognitive energy towards the usual styles of behavior and attitudes somehow are affected. Why? Because all available energy is thus used to maintain the contrary behavior, resulting in the inability to use any energy to make important and tough decisions, like planning for the future, control or regulate emotions, or even perform effectively on other cognitive tasks. Why are extroverts then happier in observation than introverts? There are the instrumental theories and also temperamental theories which try to explain the difference. Now, according to instrumental theory, extroverts make choices that place them in more positive situations. They strongly react more than introverts to positive situations. In other words, the extroverts have a disposition which leads them to experience a higher degree of positive effect. Research has uncovered some of the mediators responsible for the correlation between extroversion and happiness. Self-esteem and self-efficacy are such mediators. Now, self-efficacy is related to the personality traits of extroversion and subjective well-being. It is one's belief about abilities to perform up to one's personal standards. The ability to produce desired results and the feeling of having some ability to make important life decisions. But the relationship between extroversion and neuroticism and subjective happiness is only partially mediated by self-efficacy. There are also other factors, one of which is self-esteem. Individuals with a greater degree of confidence about themselves and their abilities have both a higher degree of subjective well-being and a higher level of extroversion. One other research examined the phenomenon of mood maintenance as another possible mediator. Mood maintenance, which is the ability to maintain one's average level of happiness in the face of an ambiguous situation, for instance, a situation having the potential to engender positive or negative emotions in different individuals, has been found to be a stronger force in extroverts. The happiness levels of extroverted people are less susceptible to the influence of external events. The extroverts' positive moods last longer than that of the introverts. Well, of course, speaking of personality types, the term refers to the psychological classification of different types of individuals. Personality types are distinguished from personality traits. Personality types may involve qualitative differences between people, whereas traits might be construed as qualitative differences. For instance, introverts and extroverts are two fundamentally different categories of people. Introversion and extroversion are part of a continuous dimension with many people in the middle. An early form of personality type theory was the four temperaments, as we have spoken earlier. And this system of Galen, based on the four humors model of Hippocrates. Another example of personality types is known to be type A and type B personality theory. Impatient, achievement-oriented people were classified as type A, whereas easygoing, relaxed people were described as type B. The theory originally suggested that type A people were more at risk of heart diseases and cancers and so forth, but this claim could not be substantiated by research, so we can rest comfortably. There was a study to prove that type A's were more likely to develop personality disorders, and type B's would become addicted to excessive alcohol drinking, drugs, and cigarette smoking. Jerome Kagan suggested that shy and withdrawn children were best viewed as having an inhibited temperament and were qualitatively different from other children observed at school. And children of people like Jehovah's Witnesses belonged mainly to that category. Trait theorists sometimes use a term to describe someone who scores extremely high or low on a certain personality trait. There are also pop psychology theories. I'm sure you are familiar with the terminology as men are from Mars and women are from Venus, whatever it should mean. But it relies on the idea of distinctly different types of people.